Everybody, welcome to our horse talk today. We started having these horse talks to help raise awareness and keep awareness up about the horses in Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And we wanted to talk to people not only about this herd, but just all aspects of wild horses and horses. So we've been leading the fight to save these horses, and there's been a lot of information that's come out over the last week. So if you have questions about that, we can talk about it later. But today we're really excited to have Frank Kuntz and his daughter Christa with us today. And I want everyone to know you're muted. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. And we just ask that everybody be respectful. So, and that's for all of our guests. But welcome, you guys. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Chris.
No problem. So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to talk about. You want to just start talking about what you guys are doing or how Frank started, or whenever you want to talk about the park, Frank, you know, we're always open for that.
I mean, that's a lot of the history is
Right.
the park.
Yeah, I've got 40-some years history at that park, and it's amazed me what they've been able to get by with. You know, it just amazes me. But if you're not able, and Dr. Bob Utley, I don't know how many people know him, but he worked for the Park Service many years, wrote most of the guidelines for the National Preservation Act. I think it was 1966. You know, he ended up, after he left the Park Service after many 40 years or some, and published many books, suing the national parks a lot, you know, a number of times. And he said, you know, the only way you're going to get this park to change its mind, you know, and do it different is to embarrass the hell out of them.
So you're not shocked by all the stuff that came out this week with the FOIA documents and them lying to the public and permanently sterilizing mares when they're telling us they don't know? Not shocked?
I'm not shocked, because I mean, when I watched what was going on out there and watched a few other things, you know, no, I'm not shocked. I mean, like I said, I mean, they crashed a helicopter in, I think it was 2007. You know, I was there, and they were using it to pen horses.
Right.
You know, once they had them in that bigger corral, that first corral they bring them in, you know, the pens out there, a lot of people don't, but once they had them in there, then they went in with a helicopter and started herding them down alleyways. And there was a gate and it was open, but there had been other animals or something on the other side, because here on this side of the gate was grass, and on the other side everything was trampled to nothing, and the horses stopped. And this guy's flying with his cab down between the fence, and then he's doing, you know, doing this with the chopper a little bit, and they finally went through the gate, and then he started coming up to go to the west, and you know, he was hot dog and hit one of the guide wires on top of the fence. Yeah. So, I mean, nothing's amazed me, and it took, let's see, I forget how long it took for the National Transportation Safety Board to investigate. Also, of course, we had the Billings County, we have the Sheriff's Department there, the Highway Patrol there, and a number of other investigators, you know, as what had happened. And when the report finally came out, the cause of the crash was failure to maintain altitude. It's like, are you kidding me? But yeah.
For people who don't know, and we get a lot of new people all the time, how did you get involved with horses? So like, give us a little bit of your history, and then how did you get involved with the park and the Nokota horses? If you want to give like a
Brief history.
Well, it doesn't have to be. We enjoy Frank's story.
I mean, you know, we grew up around horses, family of 12, you wanted to go somewhere, you got on horseback and rode. And we were always competitive, even as we were younger. I mean, with a number of small communities around here, there every weekend during the summer, there's always what we call the horse show, barrel racing, pole bending, keyhole, hangman, just a lot of fun activities. And my father and mother would haul all of us and a bunch of horses on an old 2.5-ton truck and jump them off. We couldn't find a place low enough to, but yeah, and then get them back on. But yeah, so I mean, we were always competitive, and as we got older and after Vietnam, my brother Leo got involved with a race down in Fort Pierre, South Dakota, called the Bad River Suicide Ride. And it was based on similar onto the same ride as the one out in Washington. So a bunch of us, after, there are a number of us, my sister Connie, my sister Carlene, Felicia, Joe. I mean, they all competed in them races. And of course, we were riding what everybody else was pretty much riding, thoroughbred, quarter horse type, crosses or whatever. But when they got to that 8, 9 years of age, we had breakdowns, whether it be hoof, bone, and they just didn't hold up. And so Leo spent a lot of time out in Dickinson. He went to college out there for quite a few years and spent a lot of time in the park. And he just originally started buying some to put a better bone and hoof on the horses we had. That's kind of how we got into them. And that was in the same time frame that the Theodore Roosevelt National Park started using helicopters and outriders to get rid of the dominant native stallions out there, because he's introduced domestic horses couldn't make an impact in that herd because they didn't have all that self-preservation, and they couldn't maintain a herd because these stallions work a long time to get a mare band, and they're constantly being challenged, constantly.
So what was the reason for them introducing outside blood?
Well, when you look at the bloodlines they introduced, some of it was because that was cowboy country, bronc riders. So they introduced the Shire Cross off the Brookman Ranch in Montana, who is known for raising bucking horses, with the intention of probably raising some bucking horses out there. And then they also introduced quarter horse. And of course, the quarter horse wasn't a breed until 1941. And they introduced an Arabian stud, but he didn't make much of an impact on the herd at all. So they figured they were going to, make the horses better because they're Indian horses. And a lot of opinion was that, anything the Indians had wasn't worth anything.
Right.
But these horses been here before the white man came. So
I think it's getting proven a lot more and more. People are finding more information about that. So it's getting harder for them to argue.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just a horseman. I'm not a scholar, but I always question, how in the world did North America here get populated so fast with the horse, and the natives were far more superior, and the horses ran circles around them. So how did they develop all them skills? Supposedly they learned it from the Spanish and the Europeans, but then and then that was in 1680 when the Pueblos revolt was. But then you see Spanish history in the 1630s where the Spaniards had encountered Comanches and mounted Comanches.
Right.
You know, and it's not just, you know, yeah, there's more and more coming out. But the one main thing that should be remembered is that your Northern Plains Native people, their oral history
Hmm.
is that they've always had that horse.
Mhm.
You know, they've always had that horse. And our government tried to get rid of them when we started putting them on reservations, when we would take a village, you know, we destroy, burn everything, you know, kill the people, you know, and and kill their horses.
I think there's
And
still
they had,
pretty aggressive movements from the government. People, I think, will tell you that to get rid of horses everywhere, not just in our park. So, but can you
well,
talk about
they,
too? I think that this comes up a lot and people don't understand what the park's doing right now is not anything new, correct? You've been doing this for like over 40, 50 years. So this is not a
well,
new
it's
thing.
no, it's not a new thing. I mean, you know, they've ended up with, you know, and I've always agreed that the horses should stay in that park because, you know, that park created that horse,
Right,
you know, with the introduction of the domestic studs and then the domestic studs and breeding their own offspring and their inbreeding issues. And then Gonacon,
right.
you know, I mean, you know, to me, I've always said I'd just soon see him take a chance with the helicopters with them
Right,
drugs, you
right.
know, because they're at least they got a chance a little bit, you know, with drugs, you know, you don't have much chances.
But the park has a history, I think, like it seems like when you look back at history, and I think that you were part of that history, every 10 or 20 years, they're trying to get rid of the horses in the park. I think that this is probably one of their most aggressive moves to do that. But it seems like it just was kind of like a reoccurring theme throughout the history of the park.
Well, when the park was fenced in, I mean, policy then was to eliminate the horses, you know, of course, because they weren't native to the area, like popular belief is. So when that park was fenced in, you know, they tried a lot of different ways to get rid of them horses. You know, they had tried box canyon roundups. The national park one winter poisoned some hay and fed it, and unfortunately, or whatever, the bison ate it. Uh, you know, they snared some. They chased them with jeeps. Some of the local cowboys helped chase them with jeeps until you knew it's horses' territory. You know, they run a circle
Hmm.
and, you know, keep them moving. And then when they thought they'd had them good and tired, um, you know, they'd unload the saddle horses and rope what they could. In the springtime, they'd hire some of the local cowboys and they'd sharp shot their saddle horses and then go out and rope and, you know, what they can, usually older, younger, weaker, you know, but and that's one of the reasons this park they picked for that gun con experiment was because, you know, the park's only 50,000 acres roughly.
Right.
And, and once you know them horses and their territory, you know, it's easy to test on them. Whereas
Right.
they had to do it out in the large acreage out in the beyond land, it wouldn't have worked for them. So they
Well, and I
needed
think,
fenced in guinea pigs, basically.
and they do talk a lot about in the FOIA documents too, having um local support, local help from, people who frequent the park and organizations. And I think that that's a thing too that we haven't really talked about. Like there were times that I've talked to Blake McCann, and there are some pretty significant horses and unique horses in the park that he couldn't identify. So yeah, they definitely need the help of local organizations and residents to help them. And they got that help. I feel like you and Leo were like the last people who were really fighting the park. And then I think that went into kind of a lull where um organizations that were formed were just supporting whatever the park said, even now with the Gynecon.
Well, yeah, I mean, things like that always happen because it was,
Because nobody
it's
questions the
easier.
park.
There you go.
That's what we were told
And,
when we got here.
well, that, and I've written letters to presidents, I've Department of Interior, congressmen, senators, governor, and and then they always refer you back to the regional office,
Mhm.
and then the regional office refers you back to the superintendent, who's the one you're having the issue with to start
Right.
with.
Right,
It's like, come on.
right,
So they just made circles,
right,
and unfortunately, and that's another thing Dr. Bob Upley talked about was there's very little integrity left in the park system because
right,
they all just looking to move up the ladder.
right,
You know,
right. And no
and,
accountability. So no transparency, no accountability.
well, you don't move up the ladder if you don't play the game,
Right,
and that's accountability. And after a while, what the park did with me a lot of times is just totally ignore. Even though I write back to the regional director, they'd never reply back. Then, Bob Utley wrote, a letter and to him and didn't even get a reply, and he knew that some of the top people, you know, and he said he was trying to remember the woman's name, but he said he was, and he said we were friends, but I was very disappointed she didn't even reply back.
well,
So,
and that's the other thing too, I think, and I think that there's a history of this and you can speak to that too. So Patrick Springer just wrote an article about this Gynecon and the FOIA documents. And when he contacted the park, they really have no comment. Like, that's not acceptable. You have to let the public, answer to the public for what you did. So,
well, that was another thing with these horses. I mean, I don't know how many superintendents we've dealt with, but every one of them says, oh, well, we'll have to have a town meeting. We'll have to do an environmental study, yada, yada, yada. They didn't do any studies of any kind when they started Gynecon.
no, and
None.
that's a
They
violation of
just
NEPA.
did it.
Yeah.
But they knew they had the support of the local superintendent, the biologist, and they had the fenced in basically guinea pigs.
Right,
And that's what they needed.
right,
So,
right. But I think that too, you went on to do bigger and better things. So when the park started introducing new blood, then you want to talk about you and Leo started buying horses from the park. And why? So why did you guys start saving? Why did you guys want to save the horses? What did you see that was different?
well, like I said, we were competing in them races and we're just looking for bone and hoof. But you got to understand that when we were buying these horses, they came out of the park very, 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 very wild. I had no idea what barbed wire fence was, or really. I mean, they've been chased so often, so they were very wary, very wild, and always on the alert. But we seen them getting into situations where domestic horse, they would have gotten a situation like where they got a leg hung up or caught up in wire, different situations, and you come to help them, and normally you wouldn't even be able to get close to them, and as soon as you were able to release that last board or that last piece of wire, I mean, they let you help, and they don't, they think they're very smart. That's like I said, the hoof and the bone was what drew us to them, but it was that brain, and they've ended up being some of the smartest, most compassionate horses I've ever been around in my life. And I've been around a lot of horses. I mean, we rode a lot of horses for a lot of people when we were young. You know, it was my dad, get on and ride them. You didn't spend much time, but get on and ride them and get back on. But it was their brain, you know, and they read people well, they communicate well. I mean, been around them a long time, but it's all little subtle head, body, shoulder, you know, everything. You know, you watch these stallions and these mares and you know the lead mares and you know I've been fortunate, you know, where I've been able to observe a lot of that and be around a lot of it. And I still have a lot to learn. But
So,
and also when all this was happening with the park, when they decided to change the genophenotype, there was nobody there to speak up for them. Nobody, you know, and we realized that you know they are different, and somebody needs to start speaking up for these horses.
right.
And we thought you know we'd speak up, it would help, but unfortunately, you know, we just ended up having to buy a bunch and try to preserve them ourselves. You know that you know that's what we did.
But the Dakota horses have also come up like through even all of the testimony and repeatedly even not only testimony like with the North Dakota legislators, but it comes up a lot through the like since December when people are talking about the horses in the park, and then it always seems to go back to the Nakotas and you and Leo and things that you guys have done. So people I think that I think that everything that you did um was I think you made more of an impact than you think. That's my opinion. So
Well, thank you,
um
but
we do I do and I like I was telling Krista before too, there was no manual, right? Like you had nothing to go by, like how you save a herd of horses. So but we've also talked too about, is it possible that the herd in the park, now that they've been left alone for a couple of years with all the culling, is it possible that they're starting to repair themselves? Do you want to talk about that a little bit in the 7-year um, history? And
well, we've met very many people because of these horses. Um, and David Spotted Horse was up at the place and came to see the horses and the first thing he said to us, you know, those are the horses my people once rode. Then you know he spent some time there. We got talking, and you know, and he was saying every seventh generation rejuvenates itself. Well, when the park first made them introductions, you know, of the domestic lines, you know, and you go out in that park, you know, um, after a while you could see a lot of changes in colors and conformation. But now after how many years? 40 some years, um, you're seeing um, the blue roans coming back more. You're
right,
seeing the red roans coming back more. You're seeing the lower tail sets on them. You're seeing the, you know, a better bone, bigger bone and a hoof that matches the body, you know, because, you know, they have to be able to stand up to them things. So, you know, maybe, you know, but if this park's going to be using gynecon, it ain't going to work anyway.
right.
You know, it ain't going to work.
But do you think that it's that the traits that are dominant for surviving in the Badlands would be what's coming back, correct? I mean, that horse evolved
Yes,
to survive there in a very rugged terrain that I don't think a lot of people can even understand.
right. Especially winters like this last one.
I know this was horrible.
So, but yeah, you know, I'm pleased to see, you know, them colors coming back, and a lot of that confirmation and a lot of the self preservation things that, you know, these horses have to have to survive. You know. But yeah, but with Gynecon, I mean, it's back. The survival instincts are coming back, but Gynecon's going to kill that off,
Right,
and the horse.
right. So Krista, when did you get involved with these horses?
The
When
day
you
I
were
was
born?
born, I didn't have any choices, but I mean, pretty much right out of the gates, I remember being 4 and 5 and in the corrals with dad, trying to carry buckets of grain at 2 at a time is what he requested from a 5-year-old.
They were small.
But yeah, I mean, since I could put my feet on the ground.
So what have you guys been doing lately? So do you want to talk about that?
Well, a lot of things have changed lately, so it's out of the norm of what we used to be doing. So we're very busy. We're kind of rebranding ourselves in a way, becoming our own entity, because of some mishaps. But we are persevering and pushing through everything that comes at us, and it's a lot. So, I mean, and now things have not quieted down at all, but now there will be a few babies that will keep us on our toes too.
Well, that's exciting. That is exciting. So how can people help you guys, or what do you want people to know?
I think the first and foremost important thing to know is that we are the Kuntz Nokota Ranch. We are separate from anything else. We are our own entity. We provide care and feed and everything for our 185 horses solely from our own pockets or from the generosity of the public, which has been outpouring since December. Um, so that's the one thing. Another thing is the lifelong work that Dad's been talking about these 40 years, was kind of ripped away from him. Um, and we are starting new. So be patient with us when it comes to our horse sales and our website. And I lack some weekends on posting because I'm helping him instead, which,
And got youngsters taken care of.
and I got 2 kids.
Right.
And it has,
Two very young kids.
Yeah. So I'm busy, and I will get back to you, and we'll continue to do things to let everybody know what's going on on the ranch. We try to do lives, but we know how that goes.
So anything else you want people to know, or you need land, correct?
We
Is
do.
that still a
So
big?
that's a huge thing right now, is land. The horses are all on our property right now, which is
not enough.
not enough. Definitely not enough room for them to. And with the weather, the snow melting, it's getting muddy. It's just becoming a little harder than what they deserve so much more.
Right.
And Dad's been promising them that for years, and he feels bad about the situation. But if it wasn't for Dad and my Uncle Leo, they wouldn't even exist. So um, there's always bumps in the road, and we're a strong family. Um, I always say, underestimate me. That will be fun. And I think it doesn't matter what's thrown at us. We know what we're doing is right, and we're doing it for the horse. We're not doing it for ourselves. We could care less if we got a muffin a day to eat. We usually we get up in the morning, we go feed the horses, get everything that needs to be done. And by noon, your stomach is growling and, oh, we forgot to eat. So we usually eat after we feed the horses and they're all taken care of. And then we remember that we need to refuel as well to continue to do the daily chores. But land is a huge thing right now. That would be a huge problem solver.
Land and money is always an issue. So, you know, and the nonprofit that I was with and co-founded, they'll say, well, yeah, we're offered to buy the horses. But, you know, I couldn't sell them to them because they're not going in the right direction.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's not what we put this nonprofit together for. You know,
I mean,
my one of my bigger goals is to get the majority of these horses back to the natives. You know,
Right.
that's where they belong. But you know, under the right circumstances and where they can help people. You know, help their people and help their economic development. And you know, it would be nice to see a Nakota Horse Interpretive Center on Standing Rock, or you know, any of the North Dakota reservations, you know, and have these horses there because that was their horse.
Right. And that's something I think we've talked about too. And if you want, we could talk about it a little bit more. But since I've known you, I mean, just the need for a wild horse sanctuary. And I think that now there's been so much public outcry here in North Dakota, it's a good time to revisit that. And I know that because we've talked so much, I spent all of last year, and this is something people won't know, all of last year trying to find someone to do a feasibility study for a wild horse sanctuary in North Dakota. And we finally found somebody. So I feel like it's like a little bit of excitement, but a very small step, but it's excitement. So we did get some paperwork that we're all looking at to see if what they're proposing to do is what we're asking for. And then it's just a very small step in that direction. But, and then the park threw this out with the horses. So then it was like, I don't know what we're looking for anymore. But I think that that's something that I think it's very needed. I think with the changes that are happening, especially in southwestern North Dakota, I think it would be a good addition to everything that they're doing. So.
yeah.
I agree.
But is there anything else that we can
But-
do for you guys, or anything else you want to
Well,
share?
Well, we gotta, and like I said, Dr. Castle McLaughlin's research showed that, well, and historical records show that these horses came from Sitting Bull and his sub chiefs when he was tricked into coming down for peace talks at Fort Beaufort. And you can follow the trail of the horses, but also, I mean, when the white man came here, I mean, it's either Roosevelt talked or wrote about the horses in this country. They were just like any other outfit, you know, that around, whether it be from the wild or the native, you know. So these horses, they have a right to, you know, to be here. And like I said, the park totally went about to change them, and now has the worst interbred herd and the Gonacon issue. You know, this is what needs a place of its own. You know, and I'd love to see the state government and Standing Rock, you know, work together to help create infrastructure to help that happen on like Standing Rock. You know, it would be a win-win for everybody. So.
Right, I agree. It's way overdue for your horses to have a good home, I think. And you've done so much and given so much of your own time, and I don't think people realize that either. And I know even this with the park has been, I feel like, so time consuming for me. I can't imagine the 40, 50 years that you've had doing this.
Yeah. You know, it's always been a struggle, always. And unfortunately, greatest majority was always financial.
Right,
Not enough money, not enough land, but you always found a way to make it work. And um, anytime you try to save a unique type of breed of horse, I mean, like you said, there's no manual for it. You know,
right,
you
And I mean, Frank and Leo, they pushed through some of the hardest, most difficult times where anybody else would have given up. They
I
would have
know,
left it in a heartbeat.
well,
And they will, I mean, they won't rest. And I know Uncle Leo won't rest up there until their job is done. So,
but
and I won't either. So,
well, and I know too, even as I've gone through the stuff with the park, there's times I get tired and I get exhausted, and really, Frank, you're just an inspiration, because I think, you know, it's been 4 months of this really pushing hard, and you've done 100 times that, you know, so I can do a little bit more. So
you got this, Chris.
so and then, so what else do you have? So Christa, because you're doing a lot of things very creatively with your Kuntz Nokota Ranch and the website and different products that you have. Do you want to talk about that at all? And those are ways that people can help too, correct?
Yeah. So, I designed a website for the first time. And as I continue to play in it, I find new and exciting things. So I started a merchandise store with lots of really kind of different things, with mainly our logo. But then I decided that we're not just a kind of one logo type of family. So I started just kind of designing shirts, and those are all for sale on our website. And I don't take any of the profits from it. They all go directly to Dad, to help care for the horses, for whatever they, may need. Right now, it's hay, supplements, salt. I mean,
so,
everything just adds up. You know, little things, diesel to feed. We're gonna need fencing to spruce some things up and keep the critters in once it gets warm enough out. I mean, it continues to add. There is never going to be a time. I get a lot of people that say, what's the dollar amount that you need? And I'm like, well, if I had to pick, then like 10 million. If that's, if there had to be a a, a ceiling on it, then it's fine, 10 million. But I get a lot of people ask, why is there a limit on the GoFundMe? And I said, well, when we reach our goals, I just keep raising it. I don't know what it's going to take. It be millions for land, but then after we raise money for the land, then it's still the continuous upkeep of feeding. And
but that's why, it'd be great if the state of North Dakota could work with the tribe on Standing Rock and work together. And they are the state's honor
Yeah.
equine. And like I said, the horses in the park should stay there. And they developed that horse. But if you set up the right program, when all these mares that are Gonacon are starting to pass away, you can start bringing in some mares off the Standing Rock. Set it up right so mares and some studs, and
Mhm.
to
repopulate
repopulate it with a healthy herd, and don't let them Gonacon them anymore, and set up uh, uh, where the natives could go out there and naturally work to capture them, you know. And the natives could, if they ever, I don't, it'd take them a long time to get overpopulated out there again, especially if they're still sticking to that 1976 management plan where they're going to get them down to what I try to remember, 35 or 65.
Right, 35 to 60.
Yeah.
But you have
and
talked to the park before about reintroducing the Nakotas. I'm sure I mean several times, haven't you?
numerous. Yeah, with no luck. I mean,
Which is maybe a blessing in disguise
Right.
Yeah.
because of what is happening now.
But you would even still now, as they're working on a new management plan, you would be open to that, wouldn't you? I'm sure a lot of talk, of course, but
if like I said, it was set up right, but I mean, I have a hard time putting a lot of faith in honest government.
Right.
And you could probably set it up right, but somebody come in and new superintendent or a new department interior director or whatever, new
Right.
president, and change that policy, and so, but it would be at least another place where hopefully,
Right. I think we all have a
they
lot of
can-
trust issues with the park at the moment, so
well, well, the scary thing is they always claim they know what they're doing.
I know. And that's what we've been told too. Like, we don't question the park knows what they're doing. It's like a repeat, play button that we've heard since we got here in 2016. So, and I think, yeah, they do know what they're doing. They're eliminating the herd of horses. So
Be curious to know how much money the parks made off the Gonacon study, indirectly or directly.
well, we know in the FOIA documents, they did get, CSU ran out of money in 2020. So they, the park in the BLM created an interagency agreement. So the park got $24,000 to hire people and continue the Gonacon experiment. So, yeah.
Huh.
BLM gave CSU, we know, for 2015 to 2020, $159,000. And that was just from them. That's not from Gonacon. That's not for the first 4 years or any of that either. So yeah, a lot of money's gone into this, and that's our tax dollars. That's what we're trying to get people to understand. This is your tax dollars sterilizing our herd of horses out there.
Mhm.
So
But it seems like the mode of attack is you attack everywhere, and they're attacking in the park, they're attacking out the Prior Mountains, they're attacking out all in the BLM lands, so they're just gonna try to get out there and get the job done that they want to do, and of course they'll put up with flack, but if they're attacking enough different places, the people.
Your heads are going to start spinning trying to keep
Right.
up with them.
right,
So
right. Do you have any advice for us as advocates for what we're trying to do here now, or anything you think we should be doing that we're not?
well, I'd say keep it up. And some of the things that scare me, okay, we've got a resolution passed in 2013.
Mhm.
It didn't mean nothing, unfortunately. And then now that the parks classify them as livestock, that's going to be a battle right there.
Right,
Because livestock in national parks are under a whole different management plan.
right. But
And
they didn't classify them properly either for that, because you've heard them called different things, I'm sure, through the years. And this just came out of left field.
Yeah.
well, it didn't surprise me.
Right,
It was, yeah, when they had that first about a year ago.
right. Their announcement they
And,
made.
Yeah, and they had, you know, you could webinar, I think it was. And you could, you know, listen to them. And it didn't surprise me that, you know, they brought them up as livestock. That didn't surprise me one bit because, um, you know, I mean, it's how you're classified, and they've changed the classification on that horse numerous times.
Right. But never, I don't feel
Mhm.
like the right way, like public has never been involved or anything like that. It just is a matter of them changing the wording, it seems like it, not anything documented, not anything that you could follow with any rhyme or reason.
Right. So,
You have, I think the $1 million question that we always get asked is why do they want to get rid of the horses?
well, you know, back in the, when I first got involved, you know, because they had stopped, you know, getting rid of the whole herd, you know, when we got involved. But then they went about to change them. And then originally, you know, I mean, their opinion was they're not native to the area. You know, I'd love some scientist or professor or some specialist prove to me that these horses died out. That they can't do, but they can assume. And you know, because the Spaniards didn't see horses well, they didn't come up in this country. It's ridiculous.
Right,
So, and if we can, you know, start, um, you know, if you could start proving through historical documentation and other avenues, and there's, like we said, there's more and more evidence coming out that the horse never died out. So if we could prove that it was native to this area, well, then they've got to change total management plans. Bottom line. Same with the BLM. Yeah.
right.
So
So do you guys have anything else that you want to share, or does anybody have any questions for Frank or Christa? Wait a few minutes to see.
my stomach.
Can you hear his stomach growling?
No. Did you
We
not
didn't
have
eat
lunch?
We haven't eaten lunch.
Guys. So do you think anything's different now with the governor being involved? Because have you ever seen like that kind of advocacy from the state?
Well, no, I've never seen that kind of advocacy, but um, it's good to see him involved.
Mhm.
I mean, because as chasing horses have helped prove, is that horses are a draw out in that national park. That's
Right.
money coming into this state. That's money coming into the local businesses, you know.
Right,
And no matter where people are traveling from, either flying in or driving east to west or west to east or north to, you know, that's, and tourism is to me is a nice clean industry, and it's the number one largest industry in the world. But North Dakota, it's been consistently third,
right,
and I don't see any reason why. And North Dakota's got a lot to show off,
Mhm.
and I don't see no reason why, you know, that couldn't become the number one industry. And you're not taking anything away from the oil or the ag. You're
right,
you're 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 putting that industry up there, and you know, and so it's, you know, you bring people in that want to see things, and they're, most of them are, greatest majority period, are respectful, you know, to where they're at. And you know, I mean, you deal with people out there all the time in your store,
right,
you know, lots of them from all over,
right.
you know,
They
and they're
enjoy
all
seeing
there.
the horses.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Do you have,
it's,
this might be a different question for you. Do you have any advice for other vets? Like how are these horses helped you as a vet? And do you see that as a way that maybe advocacy like this from other veterans could help them and help wild horses?
I was very fortunate as a vet coming back from Vietnam. I came back with anger issues. There's a lot of them that didn't come back. There's a lot of them that come back with parts missing. But I was very angry. And these horses helped me become a better person, because like I said, when I went to Vietnam, the people over there weren't people. They were gooks, slant eyes, derogatory names. So, you didn't even look at them as humans, and you didn't understand their language. And, but I felt so bad for the civilians. They're the ones that paid a lot of the prices there. And, and now these horses, they were a way for me to kind of make a wrong a right, and especially with the government. But there's a time when we realized, when we kind of said, wow, these are Sitting Bull's horses, and we bought a bunch of them. Oh, they're going to come and want to take them away. No, they went about to get rid of that type of horse in that park so much quicker.
Yeah.
So.
But so as a vet though, so you feel like the horses were very healing for you, and do you think that that's something that more veterans should get involved in the advocacy of? Do you think that that would be a good outlet for them?
I think it'd be a good outlet for them, and also be a great outlet for people, period, because these horses are very honest up front with communication, and they don't connive, they don't lie, they don't, but I mean,
I mean, horses in general are very therapeutic.
Right.
Our horses
they
are
they
step
read,
above
I think.
the normal therapeutic of what a horse brings. They read you differently. They can sense your energy.
Well, all horses can sense
but
energy,
on a
different level.
on a different
days,
level.
Yeah.
It's, you go out there on days that you're frustrated or sad, and it's almost like they can feel you,
Mhm.
and they know just what to do, and none of them are really halter broken out at our ranch, so it's not like we go and lead them around the yard. A lot of them are untouched. They see us,
they're touched by
yeah,
humans, but
see us, but we've never haltered
Right.
over 75%. But for them to come up and just kind of feel your heart and put you in a different mind state at that exact moment, I think it would be very beneficial for everyone.
They also taught me how to be a more honest, upfront person. I mean,
Too honest. That's all he does. Honesty. Number one rule.
But so I mean, and it does just something for you when you can just be with them, when you can look in their eyes, or
Right.
just, it's like having a good dog, or a dog, or that, and they sense your emotions and your feelings, and so they helped me get rid of a lot of anger issues that I had. And most of it was that the business of war, which is profitable and ugly.
Right.
So
I just thought that was a different thing to talk about, because you are a vet, and like you said, they've helped you a lot. So that might be another way to get some help from a different group of people.
Yeah.
And, these horses deserve a future. They do.
Right,
They deserve that future.
They're living history, and that's something very rare right now.
right,
So,
right. So do you guys have anything else you want to add or anything else you want to say? Or I appreciate you guys taking time with us. Anything else people need to know?
well, I'm sure after I get off, I'll say, damn, I want to say this, or damn, I want to say that. Or I want to bring this up, you know. So,
I mean, biggest thing is support us, learn the truth. Sometimes people hear things. Um, Ask us, call us. I've gotten phone calls from, and I've just been so busy doing everything. I'm not sure if I put my phone number. I don't know, but people get my personal phone, they get my personal emails, and I thought I set it all up under the Kuntz Nokota Ranch stuff, but I invite it. We're honest about everything that has ever happened, and we'll tell you, what you can do to help. We get a lot of people that even say financially, we can't help. But even if you donated $1 and then you told your friend and it went around the world and $1 was donated by every person, that's a huge help. It is. It could work. My son said it could.
okay.
He said if we got $1 from everybody in the world, we would have $100,000. But even just talking about the horse and the history of them and the significance of them and why they are still important to have around. You spark interest in that one right person. Sometimes that's all that it takes.
Right. So even when we tell people to, even just sharing posts, if you don't have that $1 to donate, sharing a post might get it in front of the right person, and you never know that. So
Yeah.
Right.
well, we'll keep fighting with you guys and trying to help and do what we can. So we
Yep.
appreciate everything you guys have done. And if nobody has any
Yeah.
questions, then I guess we'll let you guys go. And if people do have questions, they can find you on Facebook too and send you a message, and Christa will answer you when she's done carrying her 2 bales of grain.
At
Or
one
you can look
time.
for her on TikTok, right? Gary really
Yeah,
enjoys your TikTok videos.
getting dad in the TikTok videos
Right.
too.
And I see you powdered
I
his
didn't
nose
know it was on
before.
I didn't know I was on it.
Yeah, I edited that video.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was something that you wanted to say, and now it's like, we're tired. It's been a long weekend.
Well, we can talk another time too, so we can do this again. So just let us know.
Oh, and I wanted to thank you, Chris, for, when the horses were in a time of need, that, you and Chasing Horses stepped up and opened your arms to what's most important is the horse,
Right.
and helping to save, our herd and the horse out there. So we appreciate you and thank you so much.
Well, no, we appreciate you guys and everything you guys have done. So we're just happy to help.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Right.
this opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. We enjoy talking to you. So everybody, thanks for coming. And we won't have a horse talk next week because we'll be in Washington, D.C. But the week after that, we'll be talking to Theodore Roosevelt. So that'll be fun. So thank you guys for coming. And thank you, everyone. And we will talk to you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.